Hey guys, welcome back to r/IDOWorkHereLady. In this Ripe Stories video, imagine trying to buy a $140,000 sports car and the salesperson refuses to even unlock the door and then calls security to kick you out. Well, the only issue is that you are actually the guy who signs her paycheck. Let's dive right into the video. But first, let's read the story titled "Nearly Getting Locked Up in a Mental Health Hospital," posted on r/IDOWorkHereLady on Reddit. So for context, years ago, my mother used to work as a nurse in a mental health hospital for disturbed kids. Ones that are too young to be put in jail and too mentally ill to be let out into the world. For example, one kid is in a room with the walls covered in mattresses. But anyway, one day as my mother was working, she heard this blood-curdling scream, and so did all the other nurses, and everyone ran. Like I said, these kids were disturbed, would try to harm themselves and or others to see what happened and if anyone was hurt, but luckily it was only a spider. Obviously, it had to go as it was causing disruptions, but no one wanted to take it out, so my mother stepped up to take it outside with a cup. When she was outside, she placed a cup on a bench and sat next to the spider and started to talk to it. The thing is that my mother is a devoted vegetarian and loved all animals, so she was just saying stuff like, "I don't get why people are scared of you." But obviously, this looked really suspicious, so this security guard came over to my mom and asked her some basic questions. Another thing about my mom is that she looks young, so this security guard thought she was one of the kids that escaped and was randomly talking with a spider. But when my mom was trying to explain the situation, the security guard asked for her ID, and she realized that she left it inside and told that to the security guard. But luckily, he walked her into the reception area and asked the receptionist, "Does this woman work here?" And the receptionist looked at my mom, then at the security guard and said she does work here, but I think that just annoyed the security guard even more. However, he had no choice but to let my mom go. And yeah, guys, I gotta say, usually on r/IDOWorkHereLady there are funny stories, but this one is actually pretty scary. But maybe I've just watched too much American Horror Story Season 2 Asylum. Great show, by the way. Anyway, the next one is titled "Arrogant Karen Worker Harasses Me Thinking I'm Nobody, but I Am the CEO." So, for a bit of background, I own a dealership group. I don't own the luxury car brand itself, think the big German or Italian names, but I own several dealerships that sell these kinds of expensive cars. I've been in the automotive business for 20 years, starting as a lot porter washing cars and working my way up to ownership. I know every trick in the book, every sales tactic, and every type of customer. My philosophy has always been pretty simple: treat everyone who walks through the door like they are about to buy the most expensive car on the floor, regardless of how they look. I've sold six-figure convertibles to guys in muddy work boots and refused service to guys in three-piece suits who were rude to my receptionist. Money spent's the same, but respect is earned. Recently, we opened a new flagship location in a very affluent area. It is a beautiful building, glass walls, marble floors, espresso bar, the works, and to staff it we transferred some of our best people, but we also had to hire externally to fill the gaps, and that is where Karen comes in. Karen was a new hire, poached from a competitor. On paper, she was a rock star. Her numbers for the first 2 months were astronomical. She was moving units that had been sitting for months and upselling packages like a magician. However, along with those high numbers came whispers. My general manager for that location, let's call him Dave, had mentioned that while her sales were great, her floor etiquette was aggressive. We had a few vague complaints about her attitude, but nothing concrete enough to fire a top performer over. In the car business, unfortunately, a lot of bad behavior gets overlooked if the salesperson is bringing in revenue. But I don't like whispers. I want to see for myself what was going on. So I decided to do a little field research. The setup was simple. I would visit the new location unannounced, dressed casually, to observe operations and see how customers are really treated. I didn't go full undercover boss with a fake mustache or anything. I just did not wear my usual suit. It was a Saturday, usually our busiest day, and I put on a pair of faded jeans, a plain grey t-shirt, and a pair of comfortable, slightly worn sneakers. And by the way, guys, I gotta say, I love these undercover boss stories. Also, let me know in the comments, what is your absolute dream car that you just wish you could buy? As many of you know, I'm not a big car guy, so my dream vehicle, let's say it like that, is a Kawasaki Ninja H2R. Let me know what your dream vehicle is in the comments. Anyway, I look younger than I am, and without the tailored suit, suit and the expensive watch, I definitely don't look like the owner of a multi-million-dollar enterprise. I look like a guy who might be there to deliver lunch or maybe pick up a part for a 10-year-old sedan. I drove my wife's beat-up station wagon and parked it on the street so the valets would not see me. I walked onto the lot and just started browsing. I wanted to see how long it would take for someone to greet me. The standard at my dealership is that every customer is greeted within 2 minutes of entering the lot. I wandered around the front line for about 5 minutes. Nothing. I could see salespeople inside the glass walls standing in a hurdle, laughing and drinking coffee. And I saw Karen. She was easy to spot, immaculately dressed, standing with a posture that screamed authority, holding a tablet like a weapon. She looked out at me, made eye contact, and then turned her back. Okay, strike one. I decided to force the interaction. I walked into the showroom. The AC hit me. The smell of premium leather and polished floors was strong. It's a smell that I love. I walked straight over to the centerpiece of the showroom, a top-of-the-line sports coupe, fully loaded, sticker price sitting just north of $140,000. It is a gorgeous machine, aggressive styling, matte paint job. I started looking at the Windows sticker, reading the specs I already knew by heart anyway. That's when Karen decided to make her move. She didn't approach me with a smile or a hand extended. She walked over with a quick clicking stride, stopping about 3 feet away, crossing her arms. "Can I help you find the exit?" she asked. Not, "Can I help you find a car?" or "Welcome to the dealership." I looked up, keeping my face neutral. Well, actually, I'm looking at this coupe. The specs on the new engine are impressive. She let out a sharp breath that was almost a laugh. She looked me up and down, her eyes lingering on my sneakers and my t-shirt. It was a look of pure disdain. She had apparently immediately judged me as a window shopper who clearly couldn't afford anything there. "This vehicle," she said, emphasizing the word like she was speaking to a child, "is locked. We keep it locked to prevent damage to the interior." "I understand," I said. "I'm interested in buying. I would like to sit in it to get a feel for the driving position." She smirked. "Sir, these vehicles start at $80,000, she said, pointing vaguely at the other side of the room. "And that specific one is significantly more. Maybe you would be more comfortable at the used lot down the street. They have financing options that might fit your situation better." I felt the anger flare up in me, but I pushed it down. This was exactly what I was here to see. This was the behavior Dave had hinted at. She was profiling me based on my clothes. "I'm not interested in the used lot," I said calmly. "I'm interested in this car. Are you gonna open it or should I find another salesperson?" Her eyes narrowed. To her, I was just an annoyance, a nuisance, and a tire kicker wasting her valuable time. She was the star salesperson who had been crushing sales numbers, and she likely viewed anyone who didn't look like a walking wallet as an obstacle to her next commission. "Look," she said, dropping the customer service facade entirely, "I don't waste my time on people who are not serious buyers. You're clearly just here to take pictures for your Instagram or dream a little. We have actual clients coming in today, people who can actually buy these cars." "Well, I'm a serious buyer," I said, my voice hardening slightly, "and I would like to take it for a test drive." "Absolutely not," she snapped. "We don't do joyrides. Test drives are for pre-qualified buyers only." "Well, unless you want to run a credit check right now and show me proof of income, you're not touching these keys." Now, while we do qualify buyers for high-end test drives to prevent mileage accumulation, we are trained to do it politely. We ask for a license, we sit them down, we talk numbers first. We don't demand proof of income standing in the middle of the showroom floor before even opening the car door. "You're refusing me service because of how I'm dressed?" I asked. "I'm refusing you service because I know how to spot the fakes," she said loudly. "I've been in this business long enough to know when someone is wasting my time, and you, sir, are a time waster." By now, her voice had carried. A few other customers were looking over. One of the younger salespeople, a guy named Daniel, who I had hired personally a year ago, looked up from his desk. He squinted at me, looking confused. He didn't recognize me instantly. We had only met a few times and I was usually in a suit, but he looked uneasy. "Is there a problem here?" Daniel asks, starting to stand up. "No, Daniel, sit down," Karen commanded. "I'm handling this." "This guy thinks he can just walk in off the street and joyride the inventory." She turned back to me. "I want to ask you to leave. You're loitering." "I'm not leaving until I speak to a manager," I said. I wanted to see how far she would take this. "The manager is busy with serious customers," she said. "He doesn't have time for this nonsense either." She reached for her radio on her belt. "Security, to the showroom floor. I have a disruptive individual refusing to leave." She was actually calling security to escort me out. She was bragging loudly to the other salespeople nearby, saying things like, "Unbelievable, the nerve of some people," and "This is why we need dress code at the door." I stood my ground though. "You're making a big mistake," I told her. "The only mistake was you thinking you could come in here and fool me," she retorted. "I can smell a broke loser a mile away." That was the line, that was the moment she sealed her fate. Not just the refusal of service, but the personal insult. 2 minutes later, the security guard walked in. It was Bill. Bill has been with my company for 5 years. He's a big guy, former military, but the nicest guy you'll ever meet. We chat about football every time I visit the locations he patrols. Bill walked up looking serious, his hand on his belt. "What's the problem here, Karen?" "This guy," Karen pointed a manicured finger at my chest, "is refusing to leave. He's harassing me and trying to get into the locked vehicles. Get him out of here." Bill turned to look at the disturber. He looked at my sneakers. He looked at my jeans. Then he looked at my face. He froze. His eyes went wide. His posture shifted from security mode to terrified respect in a nanosecond. "Mr. OP?" Bill said, his voice cracking slightly. Karen rolled her eyes. "Don't bother with names, Bill. Just escort this loiterer out." Bill ignored her. "Sir, I didn't know you were coming in today. Is everything all right?" Karen paused. She looked at Bill, then back at me. The confidence was starting to chip away now, but she was not putting it together yet. She just thought that Bill was being weird. "It's fine, Bill," I said, my voice calm but carrying across the silent showroom. "I was just trying to buy a car, but apparently I cannot afford it." At that moment, the door to the glass office in the back burst open. David, the general manager, had finally noticed a commotion or perhaps saw the security guard run past. He rushed onto the floor. David is a sharp guy. He saw me standing there dressed like a dad on a Saturday, with Karen pointing a finger at me and Bill looking pale. "David knows me very well, we play golf together." "Boss?" David said, breathless, as he reached us. "OP? What's going on?" The silence that followed was deafening. You could hear the hum of the refrigerator in the espresso bar across the room. Karen's face dropped. It was not just a change of expression, it was a physical collapse. Her jaw went slack and the color drained out of her skin so fast I thought she was gonna faint. Her hand, which was still half raised to point at me, slowly lowered to her side. "Boss?" she whispered. I turned to David. "Good morning, David. I decided to stop by to check on the new store. I didn't announce it because I wanted to see how operations were running on a typical Saturday." David looked from me to Karen and he immediately understood. He saw the look on my face, he saw the terror on hers. "I see," David said, straightening his tie. "And how are things?" "Well," I said, turning back to Karen, "I found a car that I liked, this coupe here, but Karen here told me that I'd be more comfortable at the used lot down the street. She also informed me that she doesn't want to waste time on people who are not serious buyers." Karen made a noise that sounded like a squeak. "I didn't know. I thought—" "You thought I was nobody," I finished for her. "You thought because I was not wearing a suit, I was not even worth the basic human decency. You profiled me, you insulted me, you refused to do the job you're paid to do, and then you tried to have the owner of the building thrown out by security." "Sir," she stammered, her aggressive demeanor completely replaced by panic. "I was just trying to protect the inventory. We get a lot of— you look so—" "I look like a customer," I cut her off. "I look like a human being and you treated me like garbage." I looked around the room. The other salespeople were staring. Customers were staring. This was a teaching moment, whether I wanted it to be or not. "David," I said, "office now, and bring Karen." I walked into the GM's office without waiting for them. I sat behind David's desk, a power move I admit, but I was furious. David and Karen walked in a moment later. David closed the door. Karen was shaking. "I need to explain," Karen started, her voice trembling. "My sales numbers, I've been the top performer for 2 months. I just focus on qualified leads. I made a mistake in judgment, but my performance—" "Your performance is irrelevant if you drive away business," I said. "How many other people have you kicked out? How many other guys in jeans have you sent to the used lot? Do you know who buys these cars, Karen? Tech entrepreneurs, contractors who own construction firms, people who don't feel the need to dress up to impress you." I leaned forward. "I came here specifically because I heard rumors about your attitude. I heard you were aggressive, I heard you were rude. I wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt and I wanted to see if it was just jealousy from other staff, but you proved every rumor right in less than 5 minutes. I was testing the customer service and you failed spectacularly." "I can change," she pleaded. "I'll treat everyone differently. Please, I need this job." "I don't think you can," I said. "That disdain you showed out there, that's not a sales tactic, that's a character flaw. You judged me, you mocked me, and you escalated to security when I politely asked for a manager. You're a liability to this company." I looked at David. He nodded, knowing exactly what had to happen. He pulled out a termination form from his drawer. He probably had it ready for someone else, or maybe he just kept them handy. "Karen," David said, his voice professional but cold, "we are terminating your employment effective immediately for cause." Insubordination in violation of our code of conduct regarding customer interaction. You cannot do this, she said, tears starting to form. I sold 4 cars last week, and you just tried to evict the man who signs your paychecks. David said, hand over your tablet and your badge. She looked at me one last time, hoping for mercy. I just stared back. The used lot down the street is hiring, I said, echoing her earlier insult. Maybe you'd be more comfortable there. She dropped her badge on the desk, turned around, and walked out. We watched through the glass walls as she gathered her purse from her desk and walked out the front door, heading down, passing the security guard she had tried to sick on me. The aftermath was immediate. David and I held a meeting with the rest of staff right there on the showroom floor. I introduced myself properly to everyone who didn't know me. I apologized for the scene, but I made it very clear, we don't judge books by their covers here. If a kid comes in on a skateboard, you treat him with respect. If a guy comes in covered in drywall dust, you offer him a coffee. You never know who you are talking to. It turned out that Karen had been terrorizing the rest of the staff too, stealing clients, bullying the junior sales reps. The mood in the dealership lightened up instantly once she was gone. Daniel, the guy who had tried to intervene, came up to me afterwards. I'm sorry I didn't step in sooner, sir, he said. You tried, Daniel, I told him. You were the only one who asked if there was a problem. That counts for something. I ended up promoting Daniel to Karen's spot on the floor. He's not as aggressive as she was, but his customer satisfaction scores are perfect, and he's selling plenty of cars because people actually like talking to him. As for the car, well, I didn't buy it that day. I drove my wife's station wagon home, but I did take it for a spin the next week wearing a suit just to remind myself that the car drives the same regardless of what you're wearing. It was a stressful Saturday, but watching the color drain from Karen's face when the security guard called me Mr. was worth every second. It's a classic story, I know, but living it was the most satisfying moment of my career. The morale of the story is simple: be nice to everyone. You never know when the bum in the t-shirt owns the building you are standing in. And the next one is another fantastic I Do Work Here Lady story that is titled, I Can Wait, But So Will You. And by the way, guys, let me know in the comments if you enjoyed these I Do Work Here Lady stories. So I worked at a bar which one day had a huge event coming up. I arrived 1 hour before opening time to start my shift when I already saw a line of round about 50 people outside the bar. What a fun surprise. As I was fighting my way through the crowd, a guy in his 50s rather harshly stepped in my way and even nudged me off balance. He told me to wait in line like everyone else. I tried to tell him that I worked there, but he wasn't having it. Since I'm small and he's not, I was not even able to see the bouncer. We had a glass front to make him open the door, so I just stood there. The group around this guy loudly dropped passive-aggressive comments regarding people who think are entitled to skip lines and how they would be ashamed of themselves to just stand there like that when being busted, which I just ignored. Then one of my regulars tapped my shoulder. Hey, aren't you working tonight? Yeah, but those guys won't let me pass and I'm too small to see, bouncer. So I figured if they want to make me wait to start my shift, then they'll probably be fine to wait for their beer too. I will just do the prep work once I'm in. Their faces were priceless. Bonus points for my regulars to tear them a new one for hindering the best bartender there is to do her job. Mouthy guy and his friend group apologized several times all throughout the night and left a nice tip. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. Karen parking drama. A Karen neighbor of mine complained that my roommate and I park in the same parking spot, which is right next to the walkway up to the apartment building. Both of us ride motorcycles and both motorcycles belong to me, but my roommate rides one to get to work. She accused me of using my second bike to get a de facto reserved parking spot where nobody in the complex has one and said that what I'm doing is not fair and it is cheating. I said, okay, I will stop parking both my bikes in one spot then. She seemed satisfied with that and left, and an hour later I had all 7 of my motorcycles, 5 of them from inside the garage I rent, but it's halfway across the apartment complex sitting in front of the apartment building, taking up every prime parking space in front of the walkway to my hall in the building. Karen, of course, went straight to the management to complain. The management came out and knocked on my door. We cannot have you using up every parking space. Let me guess, Karen complained? Yes. Yeah, she told me I'm not allowed to have 2 bikes in one parking space to reserve a space. I'm not doing it to reserve a space, just both my roommate and I ride both of the bikes we park in that one space. All the bikes belong to me, but I gave the keys to one of them to my roommate to ride for commuting to work. The other one is my bike for going to wherever I need. We park both in one spot to be nice and conserve parking spaces so other people have somewhere to park. I was just showing Karen what would happen if I'm only allowed 1 bike per parking space. The other 5 bikes are generally in another parking space in my garage, where I keep the bikes that I don't ride frequently. The apartment manager said, "I understand, you made your point and I will talk to her. Please put the other 5 bikes back in the garage." "No problem," I said. It's been a few weeks and I have not heard from Karen. Edit, since so many people are inventing details that are not in the story, assuming those details are true and then getting upset over what they imagined, let me clarify something. This happened at 1 in the afternoon on a day both my roommate and I had off. Most people are away at work during this time. What's more though, with the exact topography of the apartment complex, there are only 2 apartments per walkway without going upstairs on my side of the building, but 4 on the other sides because it's upper level and the building is built into a hill. What this means is that most people park on the other side of the building, leaving most of the parking spots in front of my building free and open except for very late at night. How the heck do you think I took up the 7 closest spots with all 7 bikes if the parking lot was full of people trying to park? Just think about it for a second before you assume details that are not spoken just because you want something to be upset over. Both bikes are away from the apartment complex at the same time for a minimum of 4 hours a day. We did not engineer the situation where my roommate gets home between 3 to 4 in the afternoon and thus gets first pick of the parking spots. We also could both be driving cars instead of riding bikes. Then there would be 2 spots taken up instead of 1. I could just choose not to rent a garage, by the way, and park all 7 out there, forcing people into overflow parking, but I don't. Also, the garage is beyond the overflow parking. It's not fair to expect me to always park in the garage and walk even further, because you don't want to park next to my bikes and have all of 2 extra feet to walk to reach the concrete walkway to the building. The next one is titled, "Insane Karen Blocks Parking in Front of the Emergency Room because she knows the hospital owner." So I own a hospital in a pretty busy city in Pakistan. Due to its location, we can end up having very busy days that are filled with patients trying to get care and help. I worked hard to make this hospital a really good one to help people, and during that process we became the best trauma center in the entire city. That basically means that if somebody is in bad shape and needs emergency surgery or something, the ambulance will usually bring those people here for us to help. I feel like my job of improvement is never finished because I want to be able to help and save even more people. I made a recent initiative to cause the ambulance bay to be in a closer spot and added doors so that people can be transported from the ambulance right into a staffed trauma room. This has really helped patient care, since in certain situations every second can count and be the difference between life and death. This was a particularly stressful day as a bug had been going around the hospital and taking down staff left and right. We were stretched pretty thin, especially with nurses, so I was running around like crazy, trying to make sure that things were working out smoothly. Now, usually, we have somebody outside helping direct cars and making sure the ambulance bay is clear. Security was also short-staffed that day, so only one person that was newer was stationed outside. I got a radio to come outside due to a problem, and I saw the issue immediately. It was an SUV parked right in the ambulance bay and a Karen standing there arguing with the new worker that she was not gonna move her car. I decided to step in and make it clear to her that she had to move it. What was not helping now was an ambulance was coming in and needed this spot. Me, "You need to move that car, this is an ambulance bay. No parking allowed, move it now." The Karen said, "Oh my god, another idiot. I'm just gonna go inside to get a coffee. I know the owner of this place as he is fine with me parking here." Me, "I own this hospital and I'm telling you to move for this ambulance immediately." Karen, "No, you're a dirty liar. I know the owner personally and he told me that I could park here to get a coffee." Me, "Do you not see right now that paramedics are struggling to get a patient inside because of your car?" Karen actually shrugged her shoulders as she did not care and walked right past me. I could not physically stop her, but I had already called security and police were on the way. Security did not let her get through the hospital entrance. Meanwhile, the patient was in critical condition, and while I cannot reveal the full extent of what was wrong with him, I can say that he was close to dying due to the extra time it took getting him inside. Like, his heart actually stopped during the time period of trying to get inside the hospital past Karen and her stupid car. I was juggling the 2 things and heard another scream as Karen was trying to get past security and into the hospital. They were actually being nicer than I would have and told Karen that she could not come in until her car was moved out of the bay. She was insisting that she was being discriminated against and that she would sue the entire hospital. Karen, "A hospital is a public place and you're not allowed to deny me entry." Security, it's privately owned, and while we don't turn away any patient, you already said you're just getting a coffee. Unless you move your car, I cannot let you come inside. I suggest that you leave and get a coffee somewhere else. And I never do find out why she did not go to a different place to begin with, and instead decided the Starbucks located inside the hospital was the best location for her to go get a coffee. At this point, the police came and I explained the situation to them. I needed the car moved and for Karen to be removed from the property because of how she was acting. I did not trust her going into the hospital since she was not sick or hurt, and security was still trying to explain things to her, but she was now shouting how she was gonna sue all of us and she would be the new owner of the hospital. She was even starting to compare her need for coffee to be more important than the patient who had delayed care and almost died because of it. Because he will probably die anyway. I was furious, but an officer beat me to telling her off again. Police said, "Ma'am, this is a hospital, it's a place of healing, and I will not allow you to go inside and disrupt that with your yelling and attitude. If that patient dies, I can guarantee that you will be arrested in part because of it. You were told to move your car and refused to do so. Now we are gonna do it for you and tow it away." "Karen, you cannot tow my car." "I will move it then." She went to move the car, but instead she found herself being handcuffed by the officer and arrested. She was being charged for obstructing emergency services and for disorderly conduct. Due to the location of the car, they were fast to get a tow truck to take it away, and we were lucky that no other ambulance came during that time. I thanked the officers, and now with Karen properly subdued, I could get back to the real emergency, which was finding out the status of the patient. I went back inside and found out that he was alive and that they managed to stabilize him due to the delay in taking care of getting his heart going again fast enough caused lasting damage, and that would alter his life. This was directly linked to what Karen had done, and I was gonna personally make sure that a report was filed so the police could properly punish Karen for this since it was her fault. I was very happy that my staff was able to save the man, but just so furious about how little Karen could care about another person. How in her mind a coffee was more important than a life, and as somebody in healthcare, I just couldn't comprehend it. Time passed, and due to the nature of my job, I actually forgot about Karen for a while, but that was until I was asked to make a statement for trial regarding her. I found out that the charges were moving forward and they were adding more due to the condition of my patient from her actions. I did not hold back at all and made a statement about what happened and the effects that it had. I got no idea what she said to a judge about what happened, but my guess was that she showed the same level of compassion, aka none. What I did manage to find out was that she ended up owing a ton of money in fines and legal fees and was still sent to jail. I don't know how long she'll be there, but I hope that she is one person I never have to see or deal with again. It has been about a year, but I still think of her once in a while when I go to get a coffee inside the hospital and wonder what coffee she might have been trying to order and how she thought it was worth more than a person. And the next one is another I Do Work Here Lady story, which is titled, "I am interviewing you right now." So I'm a woman, I was in my late 30s at the time. A couple of years back I managed a manufacturing facility. It's a small business with a handful of employees. So we are hiring and I set up appointments on Indeed. It literally said you will be interviewed by me, insert my incredibly feminine female name, so the person I'm scheduled to interview shows up and I take him into my office, which has a big glass window looking into the shipping room. I'm trying to interview this guy, I think he was about 24 or so, and he keeps looking over my shoulder out the window into shipping. So I'm like, "Is everything okay?" And he goes, "When is the interview starting?" I respond with, "I'm interviewing you right now." He goes, "Who's that?" and points to my very young-looking early 20s shipping guy. I respond, "That is Chris." Him, "Well, is he not gonna interview me?" Me, once again, "I'm interviewing you right now." Followed by, "Thanks for coming in, we will let you know." On his way out, he walks over to Chris and asks him something. After he left, I asked Chris, "What did he ask you?" He wanted to know why he was not being interviewed by a man. And yeah, Ripe Stars, thank you for watching, I will see you again tomorrow.